welcome to the Dr. Amir Siddiq podcast. Thank you for actually listening to my podcast, and I hope that you get some value out of this particular podcast. Now, today, what I wanted to also do is I'm going to be doing a simultaneous vlog as well and seeing whether that works again. But this topic will not be very long. But this topic, I think, is very important, and I wanted to share with you a symposium that will be coming up in July that particularly my friends in the media and some of you guys here who actually do a lot of reporting online about the issue that I'll be discussing about today might want to take heed and maybe have that discussion. So first of all, it's been really tragic over the last at least month or so in Malaysia, where we've had a number of suicide deaths. And I think it was today, if not yesterday, we've also been bombarded with reports about unfortunate deaths as a result of mothers who appear to be unwell at the time of the event, where they've resulted in the deaths of their loved ones as well. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about the issue of media reporting on either suicide or filicide or homicide, that I hope might be helpful for some of you here. Now, this is also going to be a bit of a plug because the Malaysian Psychiatric Association will be having its Malaysian Congress for Psychological Medicine conference, and myself and a few colleagues actually will be participating in this particular conference with a symposium about media reporting, particularly on the issue of suicide. And I wanted to introduce my friends that will be with me on that particular event. The ones that have confirmed will be Professor Emeritus Dr. Maniam Tambu, who is probably the foremost individual on suicide in Malaysia. And I have to admit that he taught me quite a bit about suicide when I was a trainee. And some of the stuff that I'll be sharing with you a little bit later will be related to some of the learnings I got from Prof. Maniam many years ago. Now, his prodigy will also be there, Dr. Chan Lai Fong, Associate Professor, from the University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And again, she's been doing quite a lot of research on suicide, and she recently just received a very big grant. A grant, I don't know how big it is actually, to be fair, on suicide research, which again will be very interesting for us to know about what's happening here. That particular symposium will also be graced by we call her Dr. Anne, I think she goes by Nora Shikin as well, from the Ministry of Health, who's a public health specialist but in charge of mental health. And again, she'll be able to share with us some context. We will also have on video conferencing during that particular symposium with Miss or Dr. Sarah from Australia under Mindframe, which is an NGO that actually does a lot of work in actually responsible media reporting. Now, I say media reporting, but I've been seeing a lot of people tweeting and putting on Facebooks about deaths that have just recently happened. And I wanted to share with everyone here, whether they're from the media or not, about probably some do and don'ts from what I've learned before in the past, that again will be continuing this discussion again in July during that symposium. And I do urge those of you who are interested to partake in it before there's no more space, because I can't remember for quite a while whether we've done this before. Probably I can remember when I was a trainee, which was probably more than 10 years ago now, not 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago actually, when we actually had this particular event. And I don't know when we're going to have it again, so this is probably one of the best opportunities for you to learn from these experts and also ask those questions that you might want to ask. Now, I have to also share with you that during that particular event in July, we'll be having a panel forum, and I've been informed that the head of psychiatry will probably partake in. There might be members of the media that might want to partake in during that time as well. and we might also have another one or two individuals of prominence that will be able to share with us their experience either in this field or at least get that discussion going on. In fact, I'm going to make this plug here as well that we did inquire whether our new YB um, um, Gobin will be able to attend, and we'll see. He might see this video and he might decide that he wants to attend. And I personally would like to invite YB Hanayo as well, who I know has been doing a lot of work with befrienders, particularly in the Subang Jaya area. But again, that's another thing altogether. What I wanted to share with you today, as I've mentioned, some media reporting do's and don'ts that I actually gathered from a very interesting NGO called Samaritans.org. So some of you here who might want to go back there again and refer to some of the details, because I'm not going to be giving the details, I'm just giving a bit of the structure and some of the learnings that I've had over the last few years as a result of listening to Prof. Maniam and others in this field. So first of all, I think when we're reporting about suicide, filicide, homicide, and the like, we really have to think about who the audience are. This is extremely important because the way that we actually write, including my blog posts or my Facebook writings or even on Twitter, I sometimes might make the mistake, but I'm always conscious or trying to be conscious about the fact that there is an audience out there that could include friends and family. And if you've seen heard one of my other podcasts before, and I remember what Prof. Maniam used to tell me, one death actually affects about 9 other individuals. And I just recently spoke to one of the trainee psychiatrists that participated with us, that just joined us in University Malaya. If you don't know, in June, we've just received a number of new trainees, about 16 of them, and I welcomed them to the university. And my own trainee, one of the first years, was sharing with us that she was during the time when I think she was in A&E or the Klinik Kesihatan, she was, or was it when she was in anesthesia? I can't remember which of the three, but she actually was sort of a person who actually saw a suicide happen right in front of her. And again, that was fairly traumatic for her, and I'm pretty sure that it must have been really traumatic for those around her as well. But anyways, I just wanted to share with you, when you're actually dealing with individuals who have committed an act of suicide and you're wanting to report that death for whatever reason, do think about the impact of that coverage that you are actually going to write or blog or Facebook or tweet, because there are about 9 other people that might have been affected by this particular death. And those who were affected by them probably had spread that to another few other people. So when you're actually sharing this information, it's really important for you to think about those people as well. And also, what is also important is that if you're going to share about one of these very unfortunate incidences, do share also where people can find help. Because there might be people who read your article or saw your tweet, and they might actually be in the position that they might have considered or be quite vulnerable during that time, and maybe knowing where to find help would actually just help them that little bit more. Yeah. The second one is that I think when you're reporting about an act of suicide, I don't think we really need to know the details. And I think this is very important because I've seen some individuals and some reportings that have been very specific in the way that they write about that death, and I don't think that's really helpful. In fact, the research does show that it might lead to individuals to consider those methods that were not being shared before to them. And again, we have to be very careful in the way that we actually report these particular acts. Yeah. The second one that I wanted to show, or the third one I wanted to share, is that do also avoid making it into a headline and also making it into a very dramatic way of saying it, because we don't want to glorify suicide. It's really a very sad end to people who are probably unwell, because probably 90% of people might be having a mental health condition, or they might be either diagnosed or undiagnosed. And as a result of their extreme depths of their particular problem, they had to resort to such an act that they would not normally do. And I don't think there is any advantage or any reason why we should be glorifying that particular act. In fact, we should be extremely sad that this is still happening even in 2018, because as I keep on telling everyone, in Malaysia at least, that help is available in our services. We've got a very robust public and private service for mental health care in Malaysia. We have a lot of gatekeepers as well, be it counselors, psychologists, general practitioners that are aware of the services that are available. So help is readily available, and to have somebody to commit such a sad act of suicide, again, means that they might not have been able to access help as quickly as we would like them to, and I think that's quite sad in itself. Yeah. Also, when you're reporting, do think about the fact that sometimes there might be individuals who might over-identify with the story that you might actually want to share with individuals. And again, this might lead them to might actually imitate what the other person had actually done, as a result of that over identification. Now, we also would advise you to aim as for a more sensitive rather than sensational coverage of these cases. If you decide that you want to share, and you really want to consider very carefully the placement of any illustration that you might want to share with individuals during that period of time. Yeah. So I would suggest that you avoid front covers. I've seen it recently in the front covers of a few newspapers. I personally would avoid pictures as well. Again, we might want to just share with people that these things are happening in our community, and individuals who are vulnerable can then find help. And help is really available in our country. I don't think we need to have pictures of the deceased, because we have to remember that there are family members of the deceased that will be reading those same papers, blog posts, Twitter feeds, and Facebook posts. And again, like I said, I'm not implicating anybody. I'm just wanting to share with you that the way that we report might actually impact to a number of people. And now we've also got WhatsApp as well, where some people might, I don't know, find a picture and they add some details on it, which again is really unnecessary, unless you're doing for advocacy, and even then we normally don't report it in any detail at all as well. And I think finally as well, if you're going to do these reports, do educate. Think about the people that you're actually trying to get across to. Help is readily available, as I keep on mentioning. I've mentioned it about 4 times now. If there's any reason that you want to report these things, then probably that is that one reason for. Yeah. So I'm gonna end this particular this vlog and also this podcast by sharing with you that at least for us in Malaysia, we've got befrienders that you might want to be able to access. And again, in this particular podcast description, we'll put the befrienders number there as well, and the website, and they're extremely helpful if you need their help. In Malaysia, there is the Klinik Kesihatan, which you can actually go to. All the accidents and emergencies can actually see you as well. And again, I've got some podcasts on this as well, on how to find help in Malaysia should you require that help. Yeah. So I think that's all for me at this point of time. Thanks again for listening. Do give me some feedback. And for those on the vlog, I'll be including that particular symposium. Again, we'll also be including that in the podcast particular descriptions. If you decide that you want to participate as a participant, or be in part of the discussion that will be going on, and I don't think that you'll regret ever coming for such a talk at all. And again, I can't stress it further that I do not know when we're going to have this again. And I don't know when we're going to have it with such the amount of distinguished speakers that we're going to get on that day. So this is probably that one opportunity for you to attend. So again, that's it for me. Thanks again. catch up with you guys again later. Bye bye.